computational thinking. So there's a lot more than just the disciplines of science that are integrated. And once you start integrating, you can actually take real-world STEM stories and bring them to your classroom. So instead of textbook topics, these are the topics that gear up our program. And this is very, very interesting for students. They prefer it because they know that it's real world and they know that it's preparing them for the next stage. The other thing that's really interesting, and I know that in China you are working towards these as well, is that the Sustainable Development Goals become a very nice framework for secondary education in science once you integrate, because all of these problems are integrated interdisciplinary problems. So I'd like to show you a little video. I'm going to let you guys click play over there about how we incorporated SDGs. Okay, so you can see that those kinds of topics are much more relevant than textbook chapters. And that's what we're trying to do to engage students at the secondary, middle school, and high school level. So to give you an example, these are some of your standards. We actually took your standards to see whether or not this would fit into our model. We reviewed all of your high school standards, and we can certify that all of your content in China fits into this model. So it is actually possible to teach this way and to meet all of the requirements that you need to meet. I'm just going to skip through those. So one of the things that we also discovered is that we have got to get out of the textbook. Okay? So textbooks are nice, they're good references, but we actually need to make sure that students are doing literacy way beyond the textbook. They also need to write beyond the school lab report. They have to listen beyond the teacher, and they have to speak beyond the classroom. So when we consider the kinds of resources that are available on the internet and the credible pieces of science that we want to get students to appreciate and negotiate, we have to go beyond the textbook. This is, again, how we engage some of the digital resources. So we have a sustainable open education resources model. And what that means is our group at EduChange maintains all of these digital resources for teachers. We push them to teachers. They're open. Teachers modify anything they need to modify. And the students also personalize their textbook. So this is the textbook that students receive. It's digital. It looks very sort of plain, right? It looks plain because we want students to actually own their textbook and co-create it. Students actually design and render about 30% of their textbook. Okay? And that helps them actually understand how science is done, why it's done, and how to learn it. We also have students illustrate their textbooks. So this is done by a student. This is also done by a student. So we don't need textbook diagrams anymore. We can have the students actually render them and create them, and they can be part of their own books. So by next year, we will have only student-rendered illustrations in all of our materials. There are 4 types of digital technologies that students learn to use. They have a lot of ownership over what those technologies are and which integrations they get to use. So there's a lot of autonomy in what they choose to use and also what we prompt them to use. The other system that's important is lab work. Nothing can be done without actually collecting data in the field or in the laboratory. So we still have all of that great hands-on laboratory science work. But because we do all of these other things with literacy, we get them to publish a complete scientific